You hear the term artificial intelligence, or AI, all the time, right? It's everywhere, from your thermostat to self-driving cars. But what if I told you that all of that incredible complexity, it all boils down to one single, really powerful idea? Well, today we're going to break that idea down. We're talking about the intelligent agent. So take a look at this. On one side, you've got this marvel of engineering, a rover exploring another planet. And on the other, a digital icon that's been gobbling dots since the 80s. What could a Mars rover and Pac-Man possibly have in common? Well, you might be surprised to find out that in the world of AI, they are, for all intents and purposes, siblings. The answer to this question? It's honestly the key to understanding pretty much all of AI. The one thing that connects them is that they are both agents. So what on earth is an agent? It's actually super simple. It's anything that can perceive its environment using sensors and then act on that environment using actuators. A robot might have cameras and microphones as sensors and motors and wheels as actuators. And us, we have eyes and ears as our sensors and our hands, legs, and voice as our actuators. Yep, at this very basic level, we're all agents. And this all boils down to a really simple, fundamental loop that every single intelligent agent runs on. First, it perceives the world with its sensors, taking in what we call percepts. Then it thinks, it processes that information. And finally, it acts, using its actuators to make a change in its world. Perceive, think, act. It's this continuous cycle that drives all intelligent behavior. Okay, but just being an agent is, step one. The real challenge, the whole point of AI, is to create a rational agent, one that doesn't just do things, but does the right thing. So how do we design an agent that consistently makes smart choices? Well, there's a secret ingredient, a kind of recipe, called the PEAS framework. It's super useful. Before you design any rational agent, you've got to clearly define 4 things. Its performance measure, how do you know if it's doing a good job? The environment it's going to live in, and its specific actuators and sensors. Let's make this real with Pac-Man. Okay, P for performance. That's easy, maximizing your score. E for environment. It's that maze with all the ghosts and the pellets. The A for actuators. That's the joystick, moving up, down, left, or right. And the S for sensors? Well, Pac-Man can see the entire board at once. See, the PEAS framework gives us this perfect, clear blueprint for how to build our agent. Now, I want to focus on that E in P's for a second, the environment. This is so important because the agent's playground, the world it has to operate in, completely dictates what kind of intelligence it needs to have. Let's look at a couple of examples. On one hand, you have a game of chess. On the other, you've got a game of poker. Now, they're both games, right? But the amount of information you have to work with is totally different. And this highlights a huge difference in environments. We say chess is fully observable. Everything you need to know is right there on the board for you to see. But poker, that's a partially observable game. You're working with hidden information. You have no idea what cards your opponent is holding. And that uncertainty, it requires a completely different kind of thinking. Okay, how about another one? Think about tic-tac-toe versus a game of Ludo. What's the fundamental difference in how these two games play out? It all comes down to predictability. Tic-tac-toe is what we call deterministic. When you put your X in a square, you know exactly what the board will look like. But Ludo? That's stochastic. The roll of the dice introduces randomness and chance. You have to plan for multiple possible outcomes, not just one. All right, one last comparison for you. A crossword puzzle versus a self-driving car trying to navigate a busy city street. One of these is going to wait patiently for you, and the other, well, not so much. This shows us the crucial difference between static and dynamic environments. That crossword puzzle is static. It's not going to change while you're thinking about the next word. But a self-driving car, it lives in a dynamic world. It has to constantly react to other cars, to people stepping off the curb, to traffic lights changing. The world is in constant motion. So, now that we understand what agents are and the different kinds of worlds they can live in, we can finally get to the really cool part. How do we actually build them? It turns out there are different levels of intelligence we can bake into an agent, kind of like leveling up a character in a video game. We're going to walk through 5 main types of agents, starting with the most basic and working our way up to the most advanced. We'll kick things off with the simple reflex agent and go all the way up to the learning agent.
First up, level 1, the simple reflex agent. This is as basic as it gets. It works on simple if-then rules. If the sensor says it's cold, then turn on the heat. If a car in front brakes, then brake. It only reacts to what's happening right now with no memory of the past. Time to level up. Level 2 is the model-based agent, and its superpower is memory. It keeps track of what the world was like before, building an internal model of how things work. Think of a self-driving car that knows another car is in its blind spot, even if it can't see it right now. This is how agents deal with those partially observable worlds. Level 3 is a real game changer. This is the goal-based agent. This agent doesn't just react, it can actually plan ahead. It has a destination, a goal, and it can figure out the sequence of actions it needs to take to get there. It's like your GPS figuring out a route. But this approach still isn't perfect. The thing is, goals are a little crude, as the source material says. They just give you a simple happy or unhappy state. You either reach the goal or you didn't. But what if there are lots of ways to get there, and some are way better than others? And that brings us to level 4, the utility-based agent. This agent goes beyond just having a goal. It measures how good or happy different outcomes are. It weighs the pros and cons to find the optimal path. A self-driving taxi doesn't just want to get you to your destination. It wants the route that's the best combination of fast, safe, and maybe even fuel efficient. And finally, we arrive at the boss level, the learning agent. This is the heart of modern machine learning. This agent isn't programmed with all the answers. It actually learns from experience. It has something called a critic that gives it feedback, like a reward for good moves and a penalty for bad ones. And it can explore, trying new things just to see what happens and get better over time. So we've climbed the entire ladder of AI intelligence, from simple reflexes all the way up to complex learning. But here's the thing. This whole time, we've been talking about robots and algorithms, but the most sophisticated, intelligent agent we know of is, well, it's us. I mean, just think about it. Our eyes, ears, and skin, those are our sensors. Our hands, legs, and voice, those are our actuators. And we shift between all 5 of those agent levels constantly, every single day, without even thinking about it. So I'll leave you with this final thought. As you go about the rest of your day, think about what kind of agent you're being. When you instinctively pull your hand away from a hot stove, that's a simple reflex agent at work. But when you're planning your week, trying to balance work, health, and fun, you're running a complex, utility-based program. The building blocks of AI are really just the building blocks of us.